Tonight, over 5,000 U.S. soldiers are serving near our border under the order President Trump issued heading right into that midterm election. The soldiers will be sleeping in tents, eating military meals. They're on deployment through Thanksgiving, separated from their families, a mission costing you, the taxpayer, about $200 million. Donald Trump said he was deploying them to combat a caravan of immigrants marching thousands of miles away. Now, if you watch this news program, you may know over the past month, we have not led our newscasts ever with that caravan or dedicated entire segments to it because that migration march itself was not a big or unusual development for global migration. It was, of course, seized on by Trump partisans, a kind of final political scare tactic right before the election, and that was obvious. A top Trump official even leaking to a reporter in October that, quote, doesn't matter if it's 100% accurate, this is the play. Let me repeat that quote. This is the play. So if that Trump leaker is correct, they've already admitted their boss, Donald Trump, deployed the military for a misleading political play. And on cue, Fox News gave that play huge coverage. Now, Fox defenders might argue, well, they can cover what they want, and maybe they just care a lot about the caravan issue, regardless of the election. You could argue that, but it's not true. Because here are the facts. Since the election, caravan coverage has mostly disappeared. The same folks hyping this before the election aren't even talking about it now. Here was Trump before Election Day.
How about that caravan?
The caravans.
Caravan. Caravan. Caravan after caravan. Caravan after caravan. After caravan. More caravans. I noticed all that beautiful barbed wire going up today.
Fox News echoing that message with almost breathless self-parody.
It's not a caravan, it's an invasion.
Gang activity, gang members in those caravans.
Some allegedly carrying guns and even firebombs.
I want to know who's in that caravan. Are there pedophiles? Are there career criminals?
Could more ISIS terrorists be embedded?
They're coming in with diseases such as smallpox and leprosy and TB.
We got HIV, measles, pertussis, rubella, rabies.
You can see they've come in, they've got a family in a raft.
This is an act of attacking the United States sovereignty.
If any of that were true, it would be a big long-term story. But since the election, Fox News had 33 hours of segments about the caravan through Election Day. And since the election, you see it right there. Nothing on Election Day. The hours of coverage melt away. And I want to be clear, the facts here are important. And they don't only indict Fox News. Let's follow them where they lead. Two of the most respected print outlets in America, the New York Times and the Washington Post, ran a whopping 84 stories on the caravan in the single week before the election, and that fell, you see it there, to half in just the week after. Now, the drop-off shows how much this controversy was echoed by serious outlets. Now, press critics are not saying that none of those stories should have run. Some of them were just reporting news like what a president said and fact-checking those claims. But that journalistic role does not require dozens and dozens of stories timed for the election, and certainly not double the coverage before the election than after. Now, all of that's important so people don't get played again. We can learn together, but the joke may be on Trump, who lost the election even with that caravan coverage, but it's also on those of us in the media. And Stephen Colbert hit the punchline about how the caravans completely disappeared after the election.
And now, it's gone. I mean, how's that possible? Who got rid of the caravan? Could it be the caravan?
And even if voters were not fooled, this is real life. This is not a drill tonight. The U.S. soldiers are still down there long after Trump and Fox News have moved on and covered this stunt far less. And as you see on the screen, you are also paying for it. I'm joined now by Congressman Anthony Brown, a Democrat from Maryland and an Iraq War veteran. Thank you for joining me to dig in to what matters in this story, sir.
Ari, great to be on with you.
What do you think of the substance as a legislator and a veteran that these soldiers are still down there, even though Trump seems to have completely moved on, that this was an election stunt?
You know, look, as a soldier who deployed to Iraq for a year, I spent Thanksgiving Christmas, a number of other important family events, deployed and away from my family. I'm very disappointed that the president used our military as a plaything, quite frankly. Men and women who raise their right hand to join the armed forces, they know they're going to be deployed, and they're going to be deployed at times when they'd rather be home. But they're willing to do it when the mission is real, when they're doing what they're trained to do and what they're asked to do in defense of their country. But to send thousands of soldiers to the southwest border when there's no threat, the mission is dubious at best. It can be it's demoralizing, and I think it has a real impact, negative impact on the military's readiness.
Secretary Mattis gave away part of the game, and obviously he's got to follow lawful orders. But he directly said they're not going to be stopping any invasion. They're not even going to be making direct contact. Take a look.
At the present, I do not anticipate military personnel coming into direct contact with migrants. The military police will provide force protection for those service members who are supporting Customs and Border Police and putting in the obstacles.
Given all that and what we've learned, I guess I want to take part of our setup to this conversation and put it to you. How do we do a better job distinguishing between these stunts and covering what are actual national security or migration issues?
Well, first of all, let me say I'm very disappointed with Secretary Mattis, who otherwise I have considerably high regard for. Earlier this year, when the National Guard was being deployed to the southwest border, I introduced an amendment to the Defense Authorization Act. It wouldn't have prevented these deployments, because if they're necessary, then we ought to do them. But it said, hey, if we're going to deploy men and women to the southwest border, we need to have a strategy. You need to be able to lay out to the American people, to Congress, what's the cost, what's the benefit, what's the impact on readiness, and what is the long-term play? What is the long-term strategy? This afternoon, Secretary Mattis could answer in the short term, you're going to lay concertina wire, but in the long term, he couldn't articulate to soldiers, which is very disappointing, why they're there and what they'll be doing. That's not how you operate a military, and I know that Secretary Mattis knows a lot better than that.
I'm almost out of time, but you mentioned the Authorization Act. Are there other things that your party can do now that you're coming into the majority to constrain this type of potential abuse of the military in the new Congress?
Absolutely. We're going to have oversight authority. We will be bringing the civilian and military personnel into Congress with some probing questions. We also have the power of the purse, and we're going to put restrictions on these needless deployment of active duty soldiers so that we can ensure that our military is ready to face real threats that we face in many other areas around the globe.
Right, and the money matters. I mean, all spending bills originate in the House. You're about to have a lot more party on your side of the aisle, and that $200 million was spent on this. It's always a question of democracy, in addition to the soldiers' time, effort, and risk, whether this was the right spend. Congressman Brown, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you for having me.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.